Great piece, Shakoki. So this is a notarization that I had done. I'm not going to show the entire notarization, but this is a notarization that I got done, and it's very classy. But I wanted to point something out in this particular video. This particular video, and I want you to know how we get confused by where Indians really black, and we forget our culture sometimes because we're so washed in this system that's built to plague us, right? It's built to brainwash us and to take away common sense. Look at this. This is one of the names of the chiefs for the Delawares. Grand Glaze King. Who says glaze? You know? Man, shouty glaze. Who says stuff like that? Black King. You show is black. Black King. Red Feather. These are just names. Let me see. Captain Crow. That go Washington. And then this is one of the names of my family tree, Reed. This is one of the names. This is one of my distant cousin names. Blue Jacket. Red Pole. Black Huff. There goes that black again. Long Shanks. You see what I'm saying? Long, like who names themselves Long Shanks? Sicko. Sicko. Bad Bird. These are hood names. These are hood names. These are names that you would find in the hood today. Let me see. Like my father, right? He used to call me Nookie. That's my nickname, Nookie. My mother used to call me after my grandfather. So we have our names, and we celebrate them. So here goes another one. White Pigeon. Run. You see what I'm saying? And like when you look at the names, right, they tell you what to do. It's like they tell you how to, like when somebody say my name is Ron, he's telling you that's how you stay in shape. You run. You know what I mean? That's how you get your endorphins going. Here goes another one. Soldier. Now let's pronounce one of these big ones, right? Let's pronounce one of these big ones. Kokopatu. Kokopatu. PGY. PGY. Mishikuna Gugu. Mishiguna. Nope. Mishikunu G. Mishigina Kuna Jiku. Little Turtle. Like I love these names. I love these names. And like when you look at this treaty and you just read it, right? Like Wyandottes. Wyandottes was in Detroit and also near Cleveland. So those are the same families around the 1800s. And this is the Greenville Treaty. Greenville is in South Carolina. That's where my people from, Greenville and Sangaree. This is why I chose this treaty to do a notarization with. But, this treaty, man, if you read this language, it's simple. Like this is where my people are from in Indiana, the Wabash River, the OE towns. This is where my people from, like they're from Detroit. So, like this is very important that you know your history and you don't forget it. Because like just knowing the fact that you fought in the wars, it's not enough. You have to know more than that. Um, Clearly script, it says the Indians. So after 1621, they replaced the word Moor with Indian. So before that, we were called Moors. So this is very, 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 very important. You have to know language. Um, you have to know language. So this was like a treaty pact to protect the families, the old families, the Wyandots, the Delawares, the Shawnee, the Ottawa, the Chippewa, the Potawatomi, the Miami, the El Rivers, the Wees, the Kickapoos, the Piankees, the Cashakees. This treaty was meant to protect these families, who were here anciently, right? Because when you look at African Americans, right, the darkest of us, right, we have the haplogroup A, and we have it in high percentages. Haplogroup A. Those were the original form for the people who had been here, who carried that gene. So I would say read this. This is called the Treaty of Greenville, 1795. I would say read it. You can get it out the Avalon Project. It's online, and just gravitate to it and read it. Try to understand like what it's saying. But like the reason I made this treaty, right, was to basically inform the governor and the judge, Judge Kyra Bolden of the Supreme Court of Michigan, that our intentions to recommemorate this treaty was to plant trees and, to domesticate giraffes, gorillas, and, all wildlife back to Detroit. That was my original intention of doing this treaty. And so I sent them a copy of it. So when you do a notarization, for like $25 or something like that, you can do it online. All you have to do is just have a webcam, and you do that. You can do it on your phone, proof.com, and, establish your record. So when they see you, and you're informing them of what's going on, they're not confused about who you are. And then you can put your DNA in one of the PDFs, and it'll show where you're from and how you're connected to the people and everything. And you can do that. They can't take away anything from you. This is why I always say, like, keep documents. You know what I'm saying? So people aren't confused in the future. Like, say if you have nieces and nephews and sons and daughters and stuff like that, you don't want them to be confused about who they are. You want to keep records for them. And, just having like simple things in it, just like a trust or anything like that, it'll make it easier for them to find out little things about, what's happening around them and what's, what they're expected to do. So I love this particular notarization, because the language that I put in it was like pretty good. So I'm grateful about that. Yeah. So you got here Lake Michigan, Chippewa Nation. Now let's just read one of the articles, right? We're gonna read 13. The Post of Mitchell Mechanic, the Post of Mitchell Mechanic, and all of the land on the island on which the post stands, and the mainland adjacent, of which the Indian title has been extinguished by gifts or grants to the French or the English governments, and a piece of land on the main north of the island to measure six miles, or on Lake Huron or the Strait between lakes Huron and Michigan, and to extend 3 miles back from the water of the Lake of the Straits, and also in the island of Du Bois Blaine, being an extra voluntary gift of the Chippewa Nation. So let's just look at this from a point of recourse. These lands are protected, right? So if you want to go to Mechanic, and I don't know how to pronounce that because, like, I've never been in that area. I've never come across that street. I've never come across that city. I've never been in that area. So they just show you how vast North America is, right? That the people who we descend from, right? They left in the treaty a recourse. You know, they're saying that 6 miles here, 6 miles there, however many miles, that's our land, right? So let's read this part. And whenever the United States should think proper to survey and mark the boundaries of the land hereby ceded to them, they shall give timely notice thereof the said tribes of Indians, that they may appoint some of their wise chiefs to attend and see the lands are run accordingly to the terms of the treaty. Okay. So this is simple, right? Say, like, if you ceded land to the United States, right, and they're not taking care of it, and you want to take it back. Well, all you have to do is just break the treaty, and the United States is supposed to cede that land back. Let's just use that as an example. We're not going to read all the language in this. Let me see. All prisoners shall on both sides be restored. Okay, so they should be restored prisoners. The Indians prisoners to the United States shall be immediately set at liberty. The people of the United States still remaining prisoners among the Indians shall be delivered up 90 days from the date hereof to the general or commanding officer of Greenville, Fort Wayne, or Fort Defiance, and 10 chiefs of the said tribes shall remain at Greenville as hostages until the delivery of the prisoners shall be effected. One piece, 6 miles upon dusky lake where fort formerly stood, and the same consideration as evidence in return of friendship to the said tribes of their confidence in the United States, and to desire provide accommodation and for the convenient intercourse which will be beneficial for both parties. The said Indian tribes do also cede to the United States the following piece of land, to wit. So they ceded land, okay. And the said Indian laws will allow the people of the United States for free passage by land and water, as one of the shall be found convenient through this post, along with it. So they supposed to got paid for this, and they're supposed to still be getting paid if they ceded land, because that's contract law. That is to say, the commencement of the, let me see, boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Out for Chicago, okay. Illinois River, in consideration. So let's look for the aha moment. In consideration of peace established and such as a relinquish of lands made to preceding article by the manifest the liberty of the United States as in the great means of rendering the peace strong and perpetual. The United States relinquished their claims to Indian lands. The United States relinquished their claims to all Indian lands northward of the old River Ohio, eastward of the Mississippi, and the westward of the South, uniting them according to the boundary line agreed on the United States and the King of Great Britain in a treaty of peace made between the year 1783, but from the relinquishment by the United States, the following tracts explicitly accepted. The tract 150,000 acres near the rapids of River Ohio, which has been assigned to General Clark for himself and his warriors. Um, and for the same consideration and the same views and above mentioned, the United States now deliver to the said Indians tribes a quantity of goods and values of $20,000, the receipt whereof the Dubai acknowledged, and henceforth every year forever the United States will deliver at some place northward of the island like useful goods to the value of reckoning the value. The first cost of goods in the place in the United States shall be procured. The tribes to which those goods are annually delivered and the proportion in which they are delivered and following. So all of them are supposed to get $1,000. So let's think, right? $1,000 in 1783. Let's think about that. How much would that be worth today? Because that's lawful money, right? Let's say an ounce of silver is $80. Ounce of silver. Let's say a silver CD is $80 or $90, right? So that's rounded to 100. So 100 times 1,000. Yeah, that's a lot of money. So let's say about 100,000. So every year these tribes are supposed to get $100,000, and you just can't put it on the tribes that are federally recognized, because the original people of these tribes today, they're unrecognized. So you just can't say, okay, Seneca Nation, let's just use them for example. They just bought a bunch of land out there in the Northeast for $1. For $1. So let's just say, like, Seneca gets $100,000. The original people of that tribe is not getting it. They're not getting it because they're stretched out in the outskirts. Some of them went back to Georgia. Some of them stayed up there in New York. The original Seneca. So that means Black Americans are supposed to be getting $100,000. And no, let me correct that, because I know a lot of people like to say we had an ethnogenesis, right? So you just can't say that African Americans should be getting $100,000, because you got to think. Don't you got to do your lineage first before you can say give us $100,000? Because the African Americans won't owe anything. That's a new group. You got to go back and say, well, who are the people in these original territories? Oh, that's easy. You don't have to say, okay, I'm a Wyandotte, I'm a Delaware, I'm a Shawnee, I'm a Miami, I'm a Ottawa. No, you don't have to say that. You could just make a record in one of those counties where those original people were, and just say, boom, like I did a notarization. Boom. Wyandotte, Delaware, etc. Concluded August 3rd, 1795. I'm proclaiming Article 4. You give us the $100,000 every year annually, like it says in Article 4, or you give us back all the land that we ceded to you all. That's essentially the agreement in this treaty, and this was done in 1795. So this means that African Americans have to get back to their original names, right? So these treaties, or at least not get back to the original names, but at least acknowledge the treaty in some capacity and let them know, like, we've done our DNA, we've done our ancestry, we've done our genealogy. We're the original people east of the Wabash. We're the original people east of the Vincennes. You know what I mean? That's what we got to tell them. And for those who don't know, Vincennes, that's a river, which is now a street in Chicago. Vincennes, that's a river that usually stretch into the Wabash. And it's nothing but black people who live over there. And they all are originally from those areas along that coordinates. So you think about it, right? You say a lot of our people in Indiana, right, which is where my grandfather's side is from. Why don't they know about this? Why don't they know about this? Like a lot of the people who you see on the BLO, right? The Bureau of Land Management, right? You look at some of those names that are on those patents, those are white people, but you notice they got our last names. So if we ceded them land, right? And we gave them that land, right? And you see what they're doing with it today, right? Don't that mean they're supposed to give it back? Or at least pay us $100,000 so we can upkeep the land in some way. Doesn't that mean that? Because right now we're not getting anything. 50,000 dollars if you're living off a retirement pension or something like that from the Army or the Navy or the Marines. You're not getting paid $100,000. You're getting paid pennies. You're supposed to have that, double that. Like right now, you look at some of our armed servicemen, they're supposed to be getting paid easily $200,000. Easily. If you don't even work, right, you're supposed to be getting paid some type of money allotment. I don't care if it's $5,000 a month. You're supposed to be getting paid something. And you can easily translate, right, annually into a month. So like you can be getting paid what, $100,000 a month? Because annually that's synonymous with monthly. That's synonymous with that. So you can be getting paid monthly that type of money, according to the stipulation in this treaty. And what Trump just do, he gave armed servicemen, right? He gave them active duty a check for $1,776. And that's pennies. And everybody's clamoring about that. Like, no, they supposed to get paid more than that. More than that. Let me see. This is interesting though, you know? This is interesting. That's the first time I actually paid attention to that article. And I saw that, right? But yeah, like we're supposed to be getting paid. See it say right here, the post of street. You can say saint, but the post of street, the post of Vincennes on the River Wabash, and the lands adjacent of which the Indian title has been extinguished. So they gave up their titles of being Indian, right, to be citizens of the United States. And then the United States said, well, you all are not citizens of the United States because you legally can't be, you lawfully can't be a citizen of the United States. So that must have meant they kept their title of being Indian. And a lot of us have free choice of describing ourselves. Me personally, I prefer to call myself a Moor. I don't really prescribe to the term Indian, because Moor that basically puts you not inland like Indian inland. That puts you also on the outer banks because you're on the water, mooring. You're floating on water, mooring. So I prefer Mer because I like to be on water. But this is what I'm saying. So they kept the money and they didn't pay us anything. They gave the tribes to their extended family who had mixed in with them, right? So the Negroes who was mixing in with those people, right? The colonizers, the Europeans, the people who was mixing in with them, right? They end up being a part of the tribes, the new tribes, the reverse tribes, the remix tribes. And so now they're getting paid, and black people, they're without. Black people have no department of government specifically for them that's benefiting them. You can say uh the whatever that's called. I forgot what it's called. Um, but you can see all the departments that's out there, right? They're not benefiting them. They're not benefiting black people at all. The Negro Caucus, the Color Caucus, it's not benefiting them. So that's all I want to say, and it's this right here. As I say, look at those names. You know, when you see a name like Bad Bird, Black King, you got to know who you are. You know, you got to know who you are. Great peace.